said a bit too much. We said some of the theory. Today we'll focus more on problems and maybe theorems rather than general theory of invariant and general comments and so on. Okay. Right. So we had introduced. So I presented my screen. I think people can see that. So we had this notion of a graph, right? Just want to define it formally today. It will be very basic. It's a useful tool in all exams or Olympiads and all that kind of thing. So graph, okay, it's good to know about this in general. Okay, so what is a graph? So graph is three things. I mean, well, yes, or you can just say two things, right? We have a set. Okay, we have a set that is finite set. V is a finite set. It's called points or vertices. And then we have E. Okay, what is this E? E is a collection of edges. Okay, that's certainly one way to see it. So we have this set of points. I mean, it's good to have the proper definition with us. So we have, let's say, 5 points. So V will be this. And the E really has a lot of choice. So E can be anything, just any collection, quite a random thing. And that really allows graphs to model so many things. We have already seen instances of that in representing permutations and so on. Okay. So E is just a collection of edges. Okay. More mathematically, one can say that E is a subset. E is a subset of V cross V, because E is a relation. E is just a binary relation, no other condition. I mean, okay, well, you can say binary non-reflexive relation. Non-reflexive because we do not want V1 to be related with. I think all of you know what reflexive relation is. Reflexive relation is a relation with something. I mean, everything has to be related with itself. So our graphs are loopless graphs. We don't have loops as of now. So it's like this. It's a relation which is non-reflexive. That's another way to say it. See it. Okay. Now, certainly, we have certain. I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. One second. Just. Okay. Yeah. Right. So that's what it is. Now, what is the meaning of a neighbor? So given every vertex, we have NV is a collection of neighbors. Okay. So this is basically the collection of edges, not edges, in fact, the endpoints. So the collection of W's such that V comma W is an edge. U comma W is an edge. So basically all the neighbors, as you can understand. So neighbors means for V1, V4 is not the neighbor. V4, I mean, V1 and V4 are connected by a path, but that's not a neighbor. So neighbor is just a collection of neighbors. Okay. Now, the size of this set is what is known as the degree of V. These are obvious definitions, degree of V. So these are all functions. I'm just seeing them from that perspective, but yeah, V. Now here is one thing that we have seen the last day. Okay, and this is this is by its own, I mean, very important invariant, one can say, of the graph. Okay, it is an invariant. I mean, what do I mean? Because by that, though we'll not be using this side of the invariant too much. Okay, we will be using, sorry. So this V is in V, and you take, so when you add all the degrees, so this is known as the degree sum, right? This always has to be 0 modulo 2. Be something that we have seen. It always has to be, regardless of what the graph is. This has to be 0 modulo 2. Okay. Now, what do I mean when I say that this is invariant? I mean that this only depends on the graph. It doesn't depend on how you draw the graph, and it doesn't depend on, it doesn't depend on those things. Okay. Yeah. We will be, today what we will be studying is what operations you can do on the graph. Okay, so that the graph changes. You go from, I mean, the collection of all graphs, maybe this is some italic G or something, collection of all graphs, so you want to do some operations that will take you from one graph to the other, but the orbit. So I mean, these operations can be said in terms of groups and actions, but just you can go from one graph to the other, but the degree sum, not the degree sum, actually the degree set would not change. So we'll be looking at actions which will not change this thing. And of course, we'll do problems. I mean, not just theory. So DNV, this, I'm sorry. So I can just say this, right? This makes sense. This is good enough. Yeah. This will not change. We want to look at what operations does it not change. I mean, what operation doesn't change this? And then we look at the converse of that also. I'll explain that. Okay, let's first start with two simple questions. Okay. So here are the questions. Let me get the exact numbers. That will be good because they are made in a sensible way. If I give you some examples, may not be very sensible. So here is the first thing. Suppose this is the degree sequence. So remember, degree sequence is just to write all the degrees out, and you write them in a decreasing order. That's the convention. It saves some work here. Now the question is, can this be the degree sequence of a graph? Yeah. Can this be the degree sequence of a graph? Yeah, so let's think about that. So means, can there be a graph in which, on, of course, the graph would be of 7 vertices, right? There would be 7 vertices, and one of them has 4, or the other has 3 neighbors, and the other has another 3 neighbors, and so on. Is that possible? The sum is even, right? So you see, when the sum is even, that is necessary condition. I hope everybody sees that, right? See, if a graph exists, then the sum of the degrees must be even. Now, if the sum of the degrees is even, does it mean the graph should exist? That is the question, right? So, I mean, if I give you some other example in which the sum was not even, then you could just directly say, no, not possible. In this case, it's a question mark. Can you people try drawing the graph? Because I mean, if you don't know any result, and this is what the question is, then you would have to basically just go by trying to do it. So can you try to do it and see if it looks possible? Right? So you see, it doesn't matter. This is another thing, good things about graphs. I mean, there's a lot of freedom. It doesn't matter which 4 you join with the first, with which 4 neighbors you choose, delegate for V1. That doesn't matter. So we will just maybe with a different color do it like this. Now what should you do? What should you do about the rest? We want one of them to have degree 3. Now you have 2 choices. So next, so we are just trying to do this question, just naively now. Next is one vertex of degree 3. Which one? Now your choice is very simple, right? You either choose that vertex of degree 3. So this is just a basic graph, kind of just basic argument that I'm giving. Okay. Now you can either choose that vertex of degree 3 from to be V2, or you can choose it to be V7. That's enough. Others are just isomorphic. Others are just same at this point, right? V3, V4, V5 are same as V2 at this point, and V7 and V6 are same. So just two options, right? Either you make 3 from here. So which 3? I mean, 1 you have already chosen, but you can already see the problem kind of branches out. There is this in so much you can do. Now those 3 you can either choose in this, or you can choose 2 of them outside, 1 of them inside, and there are so many possibilities. I'm not saying you cannot finish the problem. So that's one case. So that one case of choosing the vertex of degree 3 from inside, from V2, V3, from as V2, already leads to so many cases, and then that other will lead to. But you can do it. I mean, you can write out 2-page proof in. You can conclude in the end that it's possible, whether it's possible or not. I'm not saying the answer. Okay, but it's not a good method. It's not a good method, right? We want to decide it by a recursive technique. So this is a mature theorem that we are going to do, kind of takes ideas from invariance principle and also recursion and so on. So the idea is to go to so this is a decidability question, right? Is this a graphic sequence? Is there a graph for which this is the degree sequence? The idea is to reduce the problem to a smaller graph. We reduce the problem to a smaller graph. Right. Now, what should be the way to reduce it? See, if this was possible, if there was a degree sequence of this, if there was a graph for this, then roughly speaking, though we need to prove it, okay, roughly speaking, you could, as I think Raghav was saying the last day, but of course it's not a correct reasoning, but this is just the way to get to the theorem, kind of. Roughly speaking, you could remove those 4 edges that come out from the highest degree vertex. And let's say if you were lucky, you can remove it from this, and this. If these were the neighbors of that degree 4 vertex, then you can come to this graph. Means if it was possible to have a degree sequence for this, if it was possible to have a graph for that degree sequence, then roughly speaking, though that's not a proof, you will come to, or you should have a graph for this degree sequence. And that should be the graph formed by removing these 4. So where is the problem? I mean, the problem is that the vertex with degree 4 need not have these 4 as the neighbors. And so this is not true. But let's say that it's possible. Okay. I mean, that's one way to do it. One way to think about it, start it. Then it should be possible for this graph. Okay. So that is 1 implies 2, kind of from the top to the bottom. But we don't have a proof for it yet. However, can you prove, I think this is something that we have said the last day, that if, so this is maybe S2 and this is S1. If S2 has a graph, this is easy to prove. So, I mean, rather surprisingly, the sufficient condition is easy to prove. See, mostly in theorems, the necessary condition is easy to prove, right? Why is it easy to prove? Because a necessary condition means what? You assume that whatever good thing you want is true, and then you get a lot of consequences, and those consequences become necessary conditions. So necessary conditions are always easy. Usually you will see mathematics are easy, but in this case, the necessary condition is hard. A sufficient condition is easy, meaning that if the smaller thing has, so this is a typical example of a bottom-up recursion kind of. If the smaller thing has a graph and the bigger thing has a graph is easy to show. So basically, it's the way this theorem is like upside down kind of, and that really makes it a little tricky to prove also. S2 has a graph. If S2 has a graph, then it's what you know in the graphics you can, but I don't want to use all those words right now. Then S1 has a graph as well. Yeah. This doesn't need any invariance principle. This is easy to prove. Can anybody spell the argument for this? Yes, would get you back. That's right. So this is easy to prove, and this doesn't need any condition. I mean, for any graph you take of S2, that's a good thing, right? Any graph of S2. Now S2 is a degree sequence. There could be many graphs of this degree sequence, and that is really where invariance will come in. There can be many graphs with this particular degree sequence, and the good thing is that you can pick any of them and you can move up. It doesn't matter. Right? If you have a graph with 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, then you can move up. But this does not say that if you do not have a graph of S2, then you do not have a graph of S1. It doesn't say that, right? But we'll prove that. Okay. We will show that not S2, S2 doesn't having a graph implies that not S1. Or we will show that basically S1 having a graph means S2 has to have a graph. That is what we'll show. But for the time being, if you're sitting in an exam or if you just don't know like what to do from here, at least it's easier to check if this has a graph or not. Can you check it? Can you check it if this has a graph or not? That should be easy to check. Or let's see, if it's not easy, then we can make it easy, reduce it further. So you want one vertex to have degree 2, right? And basically we want 4 vertices to have, I mean, see again, this odd or even one will not work. This is not an easy question like that. Basically, you want 4 vertices to have degree 1. That itself is a problem. 4 vertices to have degree 1 means you must like this. Okay, I mean, one way to do it is this, right? And it is certainly a non-starter. This doesn't work, right? Yeah, this is not possible. So S2 having a graph is not possible. Okay. Right. And V2 and V6. Okay. It's possible. Right. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. So have we have we made a mistake? So we get from the 4, we get 2, we remove 1, and okay, because I was thinking this is not possible. Okay. So yeah, it's possible. 2, 2. Very good, man. Yeah, this is true. Right. It is possible. So now we have shown that S1 is possible. Right? It means that S1 is possible. And that's very easy because S1 just needs 4 and you have to just catch the things and add them up. So you can just do this and this, any of the degree 1 vertices. Nice. I mean, so you can certainly see that this is a good technique, right? But what we would like to show is that if S2 was not possible, then S1 was not possible. That is something that we'll prove. And that's what we're going to do next. So this is a successful example. Certainly this recursive technique helped us. I mean, and you could go further if you wanted, further down and then do it. Okay. So here is then what we want to show. All good so far. Here's what we want to show. So you have a graph. You have a graph G. I mean, this can be, as you can imagine, it can be framed in hundreds of ways, but this is good generality for us. So you have a graph and the degree sequence is the following: D1, D3 till Dn. Okay. And of course, we are making an assumption here that D1 is bigger than D2 is bigger than D3. And this is bigger than equal to Dn. Okay. So this is what is true. Okay. Now we want to show that if Or maybe I should just start with the degree sequence. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just give me 1 second. I'll just change the place. Yeah. 1 second. Right. I mean, so we have to assume that it is a degree. I mean, 1 sec. Yeah. So we have this degree sequence. Now, so let's again call this S1. Okay. If S1 has a graph, then S2. Now, what would S2 be? Can anybody tell me what S2 should be in this situation? What I should call it? How it should be? Based on what we have done, yeah, I mean they don't vanish, but reduce by 1. That's right. Yeah. So you want to cut the D1 neighbors of the first vertex, but maybe these are not the neighbors, and that's where the problem is. Okay. So this is D1 plus 1. So yeah. So this notation. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Right. If S1 has a graph, then we want to show then S2 has a graph. We want to show this. This is not easy. Okay, don't think, because the neighbors of D1 need not be D2, D3, and so on. Okay. So here is the easy case. Okay. So if the neighbors, so of course S1 is graphic, so we can assume a graph. So maybe that was correct what I started with. Correct in this? Yes, right. Connected by directly just by a line. Yes. Yes. So if the neighbors of V1 were D2, D3 till, wait a minute. Right. So there's another mistake, right? They should be D1 plus 1 because the next D1 vertice is not including D1 itself. Right. So if these were the neighbors of V1, of the first vertex of degree D1, then is it clear to everyone that the problem is done? You can just remove, right? You can just remove those things. So if V1 had V2, V3 till V of D1 plus 1 as the neighbors. Right. So if V1 had these neighbors, okay, means the first and the next D1 vertices, then you can remove them and you can get a graph for S2. Very simple. But then what do we do? So just notations here. I'll call this, so this is an important set that we will have to look at always. So I'll call this, we can call it anything. We can call it P maybe, okay, P. The problem that might happen is that V1 may, so this is P. This is a collection of vertices that belong to P, the corresponding vertices. Is that V1 may not have all its neighbors in P. That is the problem, right? V1 might, so this is more of a problem in monovariance in some sense. V1 has a neighbor which is not in P. Maybe, okay. So I mean, it may have some neighbors in P, but we want to say that not all. So maybe some neighbors are in P. So very important to draw some pictures like this. I mean, I know highly inaccurate, but that's not the point. And it may have some neighbors outside P. Yeah. Oh, no. I'm sorry. No. Okay, that was the previous case, right? If the set of neighbors were this, then the problem was done. So we are not looking at that. Yeah. We are just calling this P separately because this is the good set. Basically, the point is that we want V1 to have its neighbors we want the neighbors of V1 to be exactly this set. Right? We want that, but that's not true. That's the point. So what should we do now? How will the invariance or the monovariance come in? Like that last day's problem of enemies. How can we use that kind of argument? So point is that there are neighbors of V1 outside P, and we want to reduce that number. Right? We want to increase the number. We want to increase this number. We want to increase this number. The neighbor set of P, the neighbor set of V1 with P. We want to increase this number. Does everybody get that point, right? We want to increase this number. By what? Yeah. In some sense, yes. That's right. But more precisely, without disturbing the degree sequence at all. Right? We want to kill some of the neighbors of V1 and give new neighbors of V1 inside P, but we don't want any vertex to change its degree. We want to keep the degrees invariant. You see? So here, this is not a problem where you have to spot the, I mean, sometimes you have to spot the invariant, but that's the first step in this problem. We want to keep the degree invariant. Okay, why? Because you have this for S1. Okay, so this is the orbit of S1. In S1, there are many graphs. I mean, so this is maybe I should call this G bar or maybe G initial. So this G initial is a graph which is in S1, meaning that its degree sequence is D1, D2, and so on. But this is not a good representative in this orbit. You see my point? This is not a good representative in this orbit because its neighbors are not V2, V3 until VD1. So what we want to do is that we want to move in this orbit. And we want to move in this orbit and we want to go to a G canonical or a good member. We want to go to that member in this, meaning that we want to keep the degrees invariant. And we want to go to that member, which has, of course, the same, because it's the same orbit, same degrees, but its neighbors are just D2, V2, V3, until VD1. You see my point? So this said non-mathematically, it means that we want to bring more and more neighbors of V1 inside P, but we don't want to change any. If you change the degrees in the process, then you just lose everything. Right? Then you will get a graph in which the neighbors of V1 will be V2, V3, Vn, but then the degrees will all be messed up. Then you can't go here. Okay. So much for the words, but how do we do it? That is the main thing. So the idea is we do it one at a time. That's really the power of invariance, right? Something doesn't change at every step, doesn't change at all at every step, then it won't change at all even after infinitely many steps. Okay. So how do we do it? We want to see, it's true that V1 has a neighbor outside, right? Because in ours, I'm not writing all this in words, okay? Okay, maybe I can write a few. Okay, V1 has a neighbor outside P. This to be increased, of course, one at a time. Okay, V1 has a neighbor outside. Let's say it's W. Now, what should we do? And you remember W is, what is W? W is Vi, where I, this is also very important, where I is bigger than D1 plus 1. So the index of I is quite big because P is D1, P is, yeah, those vertices. So I'm exchanging the vertex with the degree sometimes. So you can understand that, right? So V1 has a neighbor outside, and maybe maybe V1 doesn't have some neighbor inside. Maybe maybe some vertex is here. Maybe, I don't know, you can call it anything, call it V inside, and this is not a neighbor. Now, what do we want to do? We want to, okay, maybe I should draw that in the next picture, in a different picture, to be very clear, because once you can understand the picture, you can hopefully write out the proof. So we want to keep everything same in the next picture, but just change one aspect. We want to introduce this new neighbor V, which was not there before, and we want to kill this W, and others will remain. You see my point? No, we are not taking W into the. You can't take W in P. You want to no longer. You want no longer W to be friends with V1, but you want V1 to have instead a friend inside P. You see, you want him to have the good friends. So P is a collection of good friends, right? And you want V1 to give up W and come inside, have one more friend in P. You see, because they have higher degrees, maybe something like that. So how do we do this? How do we get from, and remember, you do not want to change what? See, if you do this, certainly the degree of V1 is not getting changed. That's not a problem at all. But I mean, if you just do this naively, you can say, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, you do it. But the problem is that you will be reducing the degree of W by 1, right? And you'll be increasing the degree of V by 2, by 1. You do not want to do that. You want to keep that constant. You can't afford that. How do you not change it? So when you have decreased, the idea that you have decreased the degree of W by 1, right? By going to the second diagram, you have to now increase it by 1 by some other means. Now you can't just say that I'll just join W with something else. No, because then that degree will change and blah, like it could set up a chain reaction, or like, you don't know, it's a general, you want to prove this theorem, want to prove it in generality. Certainly in picture 2, the NV1 intersection P has increased. That's a good thing. But the degrees have changed, and we want to they want to maintain that invariance. How do we do it? How do we make the degree not change? See, the idea is that you have to resort to a fourth vertex. You have to resort to some fourth vertex. And that's where you will have to use this. And what does it mean? This means degree of V is certainly not less than the degree of W. Note that this makes sense. W occurs way down in the sequence. This is why introducing this order, which doesn't compromise on the generality, is important. How do you use that? Now you see, the point of that is that there is a fourth vertex. Okay, this is the hard problem. I'm not saying that if people think, okay, I could not have thought of it. No, I am not. So this is not my proof. Okay, this is the theorem. Okay, it's a theorem. I can tell you the name. The theorem name is, so this is a theorem that is proved by 2 mathematicians separately. I don't know if independently or not. Havel Hakimi, I think that's how you pronounce it. These 2 people proved it in 50s. This is the recent. Now you're going to recent mathematics. This is quite recent. I think this was 50s or 60s, not before that theorem. Okay, it's the theorem, so not a joke. It's not a joke. But yeah, the ideas that we are using is really, so we want to use this invariance principle, but we also want to take away a theorem, not just one-off tricks here and there. But yeah, obviously. Now, what does this mean? What does these things mean combinatorially? How do you use this thing combinatorially? This means that there is a vertex, some vertex. I don't know, you can call it anything Z maybe. There is a vertex Z such that, see, if if you take a vertex, if you take a vertex X and V has X as a neighbor, and W also jumps and say I also have a neighbor, is it going to work? If this happens for every vertex, and is it going to work? No, then the degree of W will be bigger than degree of X, Y, of V, right? Because W already has a neighbor V1 which V doesn't have, and W is saying that I have every neighbor that V has. Not possible, right? Then the degree will be bigger. So because of all this must happen. So maybe yeah, this must happen. Maybe safe to draw like this only. This must happen. There is a vertex such that it is a neighbor of V, but it is not the neighbor of W. Okay, it's not the neighbor of W. And this, now can you tell me what we should do so that we come to the second picture? That's right. You take the Z and you attach it to W, and you remove V and Z. That's it. You remove the bond between V and Z. Very good. So what is the picture in the, yeah, yes. Nothing happens. Its degree was 0, it remains 0. No problem. No, but if so, we have assumed that the degrees are increasing. So D1 cannot be 0. If D1 was 0, then everything is 0, then there's nothing to do. Yeah, that's possible. So then the no. Okay. No, then the no, that's right. But then you can clearly say that the graph. So if that was the case, if that was the case, then when you consider S2, then certainly S2 will not have a graph corresponding to it. Right. Then -1 will come, and S2 will not have a graph corresponding to it. And but you don't have to. I mean, once you get -1, you can just say that the initial graph was not possible. Because if you're getting -1 in the middle, then it means that S2 doesn't have a graph corresponding to it. Right? And if S2 doesn't have a graph corresponding to it, then S1 will not have a graph corresponding to it. That's what we are proving. And we're not assuming anywhere that the degree is -1 or anything. Right. Okay, right. I mean, so in that case, you see, in that case, if the degree is D1 and there are not enough D1 non-zero things, yeah, then you can directly conclude it's not possible. Okay, that's right. That's right. So if initially there were less than D1 non-zero things after D1, I mean, once it becomes 0, it will remain 0. You can directly say that's not possible. So you don't have to do all of this at all. Yeah, that I think has to be made as an exception. Right, because if you don't make it as an exception, then you get -1 as the degree, this thing. And yeah, but then the problem is that will this proof still work? Yes, the proof will still work. Yeah. Yes. Oh, no, that's not an exception. So he's saying that, let's say if it was something like this, 3, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0. So I'm saying that in this kind of situation, you can immediately say that the graph is not possible because this degree 3, but there are only 2 non-zeros. You can immediately say. But I'm saying that this theorem will still go through. I mean, this is not an exception to the theorem, because then when you come to S2, you can prove that S2 doesn't have a, I mean, S2 will not have a, certainly not be graphic, right? Because S2 will have a -1. So S2 will not have a graph to it. And what we are proving is that if S2 doesn't have a graph to it, then S1 doesn't have a graph to it. And so combined, it will be good enough. We don't have to make this as an exception, but you can just see this and say anyways, yeah, right. So that certainly makes sense. I mean, all this is true in simple graphs. Okay, right. So you see, the problem is done, right? We have gone to a graph, okay, by keeping the degree sequence invariant. We have gone to a graph in which V1 has more neighbors in one more neighbor in P, and we can do this, maybe at most D1 times if needed. And finally, we will get to that good member in the orbit, right, in which everything is good. And then we can just cut it, just remove it and get a graph for S2. Does that make sense? Right. And what have we done? We have done the following thing, right? This is the epicenter, right? This is the local change that was needed. So you have 1, 4, 2, 3. This is what we have done. So this is one of the graph operations. There are several hundreds. I know like 10, 15 different ones, but there are many graph operations. And really, it's not about knowing many. It's about whether you understand it and whether you can come up with your own in your own situations. Right. So these are the graph this is one of the graph operations that does not change the degree sequence. So whenever the question is about situation is you don't want to change the degree sequence, mostly this result will be strong enough to do the problem. But maybe you don't want to quote it or something like that, then you can keep in mind that this is the kind of operation that you would want to do if you do not want the degree, if you want to keep the degrees invariant. Okay, or if this kind, or in more easier questions, if this is the kind of movement that is being, because in the easier questions it will be like this is the kind of movement that will be done, and they'll ask you, can I reach that particular configuration, can this guy have this many friends, and blah blah blah. So you can say, if you know that this is what the movement is being done, then yes, the degree sequence will remain invariant, and so you can decide whether you can reach something or not. Right. So if you do this operation, then the degree sequence does not change, right? And what you want, you get. You see, you are getting to the good place. So of course, we are applying this operation in a specific way. That's also important. Just knowing this operation is not enough. I mean, if I knew this operation, maybe I could not do the proof on my own. If I just knew the operation itself. So yeah, this. Yeah, please say. Yeah. Yes, we are yeah, but saying it, but I do not want to call it a group action, but it is indeed a group action because it's a very complicated group if you want to actually describe the group. Okay, so the group will be a translation on n things, and there will be a lot of members, right? Because I mean the group will have 2 times n choose 2 things, because you have 2 edges that you want to choose, right? In that group, I mean every one, like this is one particular motion, right? But this kind of motion can happen for to every pair of edges. So it will 2 times n choose 2 things, but it is indeed a group, and that will be, I mean, the combinatorial version of that will be needed in the next question that I want to do. Okay? And I will not say that because we do not want to, I mean, because you will not use any group theory. There's no point in that. It will be simple enough. We'll see. And it's an extension of this question. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Okay, and now you can use this in a lot of places. Okay, I will give some other questions on degree sequences and so on that people can think about, and I will also think about, because this is an open thing. I mean, it's a lot of things are there. I do not know much about this. So the next thing I want to do. Okay, so first of all, I mean, okay, let me just say it again in general. So we have a graph G1 and we have a graph G2. Okay. If you apply this, I mean, now this is a more of a proper invariance question. If you apply this thing, meaning that, you take this through this. Okay. This is what is known as a switch equivalence. I mean, if you can go from G1 to G2 by this kind of switch, okay, then G1 and G2 are called, not important, this word is not important, are called Not important means it'll just maybe add more confusion for the time being, but later on it will be important because this language is good. It are called switch equivalents or switch equivalent in this case, of course. Switch equivalent. I mean, if you can go from G1 to G2 by this kind of thing, like what we were doing, right? We were going from one to the other by just switch all our things in the sequence of graphs will be our switch equivalent. Then the degrees are invariant, right? Then the degree sequence, maybe the degree sequence, I should say d sequence of G1 would be same. There's not a number, it's a sequence. That's very important. Not just not the degree sum. Degree sum is surely not changing. The degree sequence is also not changing. Okay. Degree sequence of G1 is same as degree sequence of G2. Okay. So we know then that you will remain in the same orbit. So this action will keep you in the same orbit. This action of switching. But another question is this action transitive? What do I mean? Can you visit every member in the orbit? So we want to ask if so now the question is, what are all the graphs that you can reach? Starting from G1, if you apply this thing that keeps this invariance, yeah, I mean, I say it in more complicated terms. Yeah, but not needed. You can describe it as a function from here to n to the power. You can do a function from here to n to the power n, and you can describe some sort of invariance function. And then you can actually consider polynomials in n variables, and then make that function, make this motion act on some polynomials. And really interesting things happen because polynomials are really what we want to have. We want to have more algebra, and this situation is lacking algebra, right? You will agree. So that is really very important to go there, but we can't. I mean, maybe even I also don't think I am good enough to go there for the time being. Yeah, but anyways, the point is we do not want to do the language of functions and all. The point is that we have G1 and G2, and we're saying that if you can apply this motion, then the degree sequence will remain the same. But now we want to ask if the converse is true, meaning that is this invariance an equivalent invariance? Is this equivalent on the orbits? Meaning that can you reach everything in the orbit? So what does it mean, saying it less mathematically? That if degree sequence, if whatever differential degree sequence of G1 equals degree sequence, whatever sequence of G2, then G2 and G1 are switch equivalent. Then G2 can be reached or can be gotten from G1 by switches, by these switches that we were doing. Not one, maybe you would have to do several switches, right? But this is the question. So if two graphs have the same degree sequence, we are claiming something strong. We are saying that you can go from one graph to the other by some switches like these. Okay. So it's like every orbit is sort of connected, something like that. Okay, well, that's maybe not correct. Okay. So again, this is sort of a new question again. Okay, maybe we can think, but I'll not give you time to think for this. I will do the solution now. Okay, and then maybe we could think about other questions later on, like this. Yeah. So today we were not able to do the other problems that I had in mind. We'll do some other classes and we can do them. So the point is this. This is the idea. The idea is this. Look, you have a graph G1. So they are certainly everything is happening in the orbit. That is certainly the case. But the point is this. You take two things which have the same degree sequence and we want to reach from G1 to G2. Here are the ideas. It's not a proof. You want to go from G1 first to that best member, right? This is the thing. Maybe this is a good point to will be a good point to stop. Maybe you can write the proof on your own. So you want to go from G1 to the best member of that orbit, right? What would the best member of that orbit be? So suppose G1, I mean, you people know it, maybe intuitively, but I'll just say it. The best member was what we did in the previous proof, right? So you want to go, so G1 has a degree sequence, G has series sequence, but you want to go from here, you want to go from G1 to the G canonical. Now what G canonical will obviously have the same degree sequence, okay? But V2, V3 till VD1 will be the neighbors. You want to go to that one, okay? V2, V3 till VDN plus 1. Yeah, does it make sense? This is where you want to go. Any questions? And we can do it. That's what we did in the previous question, right? We can do it. But the problem is that this G canonical is not one. There's no one G canonical, right? Because I mean there are several ways to do it. So this is actually not correct. What I'm saying G canonical. But point is that yeah, this condition is matched. But the point is that if I do it in some way, if I choose some W and you choose some W1, then you may go to different places. Right? You may go to so G canonicals. There are several G canonicals. That is the point. Okay. I mean, each of them has the property that the first vertex, which has degree D1, has its neighbors with V2 to VD1. That's the property that all these good things have. There are several zeros in some sense, several singularities. Right? All these things have the same first property that the first member has these D1 other neighbors. That's cool. But the problem is that what about the rest? I mean, you don't know about them, right? I mean, certainly they again the rest of the graph has the same degree sequence, but then they may be very different, very different graphs on those vn minus one, v2 to vn minus one vertices, right? I mean, sorry, v2 to vn, that is n minus one vertices. They may be very different there. What you do there, that I leave people to think about. So, but certainly you can go from G1 to G canonical, and you can go from G2 to maybe some other G canonical. But then how, and also remember, this means that, and that's what Swagata is saying about the group, that you can actually go from G canonical to G2 because our motions are invertible. And that's really the essence of a group, essence of a symmetry, that you can reverse it in some sense, right? You can reverse your action. So you can go from G canonical to G2. Now the issue is, can you go from one canonical to the other canonical? So these two canonicals are the same on the first vertex in some sense, right? Like when you when you rip off the first vertex with the neighbors of the first vertex, no, with the edges from the first vertex, then the remaining graph may be different, but they will have the same degrees. So how do you go from here? I mean, go meaning you can go in any way. Now you understand these are reversible steps. Think about these things. How do you fill in this? What do you do there? Right. So remember, that is a question for a smaller graph in some sense, right? N minus one vertices. So what do you do there? Think about it. Okay? It's easy. Just think about it. Okay. So any questions with what we have done so far? So here we are not just using invariance, like showing that when you do this action, this is invariant, but actually this invariant captures all the elements of this. This is the form equivalent kind of. This invariance is kind of describes the entire orbit. Okay. So we're like, now we have a good description for the orbit, right? The orbit is like, the orbit is the orbit created by the action. That's the thing, because yeah, you can reach somewhere. It means you have reached there by some action, by some sequence of these switches. So these are the orbits under that action. These are not just orbits such that they are invariant under that action, but exactly the orbits. Okay. So any questions with this? No. All right. Now let's move to, yes. Hmm. They can be different, that you can imagine, right? Because see, you may do it in different ways. And also because you're coming from different graphs, like you're coming from G2 to G canonical. So you have made sure that the first vertex has its neighbors with the next D1 vertices, and similarly for G1 you have made that sure. But the remaining graph might be different, but they will have the same degree sequence. I mean, everything in this has the same degree sequence. That's the invariant. Right, but then how will you connect all these canonicals? I mean, eventually you want to find a path from G1 to G2. Right, from here, so this is n minus 1 vertexes. You can go to n minus 2. So now probably, maybe I shouldn't draw it in the same picture. It's like on a lesser dimension in some sense, right? You can go to n minus 2 vertices, but then how will you connect them in the end? How will you connect? Let's say at this point, you go to one vertex case. How will you connect? I mean, you can go back, but then how will you connect this with G canonicals of this and go back to G2? Because you want to show that I can go to G2. Right? Right. But the problem is that now you're not in the same orbit. Now it's kind of like if you remove if you okay, that's another problem. You're not in the same orbit. But if what you're saying is uh, that is a problem, but it might work. It might work. So you're saying that in the end, if you do this, no, but you are correct. It will work. If you do this, so yeah, his point is that no, you're correct. So you don't remove the vertices, but it's kind of like you have come here, which takes care of the first. Now you go to another one, which takes care of the first, and so on. You might go somewhere, but the point is, if you start from G2 and do the same thing, you'll come to the same point in the end. That's right. Yeah. 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 Right. You can come there, but you could have said this less painlessly by using induction. You can say the problem on n minus one vertices can be done by induction. That is basically I've done induction only, but yeah, this is you have done the reverse way. Yes. Okay, so this is a good classification result in graph. I mean, it's not done in the first. It's not done in the first 3 weeks of graph theory course. So it's a little, but doesn't need much. So we could say it. That's why I said it. That's why I could say it. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I think I will not. I can, but I don't want. Let's not do any more problem today. Okay, this is enough to let it sink. Okay. Yeah, so maybe I will continue this topic on Friday. Okay, and on Friday what I'll do is this, and then we'll look at invariances in permutation groups, permutations also, what we were saying about the cycles. But Friday we will start with some variations of different kinds of problems. Okay, and maybe I'll give some problems in between, but problems of these types are, I mean, you have Arthur engine and so on is there, but still I myself have to give the varieties that I have in my mind. Okay, which I'll do. And yes, that's it. And tomorrow morning we'll have a simple problem solving class, as you guys have seen the flavor of it, those who come. And of course, the harder versions of that which are getting collected, we will discuss them once in some harder problem solving session later, maybe in the weekend. So yes, and tomorrow evening, of course, we have the analysis class. Right. So that's it. That's it for now. Thank you.